Welcome back, everyone. 2026. I am Ryan Samuelson. I am one of our hosts for Moffat Library Talks. I am it's been a while since I've actually done my full title. I am the Associate University Librarian for Public Services. There you go.
Yeah, it's very impressive. I'm Joseph McNeely. I'm just the instruction librarian.
And I'm Sarah Cobb. I am an associate professor of math and chair of the mathematics department. I'm
Okay.
not a librarian at all.
You could be though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, for those, a Happy New Year, everyone. I hope everyone's so far their year has gone better than mine has. But I won't get into that. Yeah, it is a brand new new year. We've got a few more things planned. Hopefully, have more interviews, more people on the show this year on Club Moffat Talks, and I think we're going to start off just talking about what we've been doing for the most of the vacation.
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't been doing much. I've been dealing with some problems in my personal life at home I'm not going to get into. But I will mention that this week, Jenny Tartakov's Primal comes back, which I think is
Mm.
might be the best cartoon ever made. For those not familiar, Jenny Tartakov is a longtime Cartoon Network creator who got started on his show Johnny Bravo. He got more famous through his work on something called Samurai Jack, and for the last decade, his primary cause has been a show called Primal, which is interesting because the I don't think there was a single word of dialogue in the first season. So it's about a caveman, and he is this week. I haven't seen any of the new episodes yet, but this week he is coming back for season three, which is going to be interesting, especially since he killed off the main character last season. So we'll see how that goes. Apparently, zombies are involved, so we'll see how things go.
Wow. Okay. Is that
I
it for
just want to
you?
say that I love the fact that he's relying purely on imagery to tell his stories.
Yes.
He doesn't do dialogue. He just does pure imagery. And it is very much sword and sorcery based. It's very much going back to my childhood in the 70s and 80s, reading Robert E. Howard, reading uh, Ursula Le Guin and some other people of that time period
Mm.
and the type of work they put in. Watching the Hanna-Barbera Action Hour as a small child watching the Herculoids or Space Ghost. It's very much in that style, but again, he's relying upon the strength of the art itself to tell the story, not relying upon dialogue or exposition, just simply watching images on the screen, which I think is remarkable. I don't think anyone's really done that since the silent era.
Hmm.
Yeah. I watched some of Primal. I didn't keep up with it, but yeah, I think it's a cool show. Um, have you been reading anything or?
No, I haven't read anything lately.
Okay, fair enough. I we have a tradition of giving each other books at Christmas in my family.
That's
Um,
great.
and so there, it's a fun thing because what are you going to get? One of the things that I got is I got the last three collected volumes of the comic series Fables, which I actually hadn't realized had ended. So I was picked up that last one and it was like very finale, coded, and I was like, oh, it's over. Yeah. So there was that.
Bill
Um,
Willingham has came back with a sequel. I want to say 5 years ago, just to let you know.
okay,
I
that's fine. I mean, well, and
don't
the
think
fi yeah,
it didn't
well,
win
yeah.
as many rewards, and it wasn't received as well.
Oh, it
I'm a big Bill Willingham fan, have been since his illustrations in D&D actually.
yeah. Well, and did he do? the Elementals
He
series.
did the
That was him
Elementals.
too.
I
Okay.
collected all of that back in the day.
Yeah. Really cool artwork in those. And of course, he wasn't really doing the art, he was doing the story, but still.
Started doing
Um,
the art and story, and eventually just started doing the story for it.
yeah. But so read that, and I'm currently reading the a book called Red Magic, which is an urban fantasy book, which is kind of my jam. And it's written by a guy that I'm actually friends with. So that's cool. It's been a newest book in the Vince West series. Um, uh, Check it out. It's available on Amazon. But doing that, put together a lot of furniture over the holiday because people got furniture, got battle damaged, from putting furniture together. Um, was given a new Lego set, which I've been slowly putting together a little bit at a time during my lunch breaks because all of my Legos are here at work. And that's fun. Yeah, I think yeah. TV, been watching some stuff. What did we watch? Uh, Started watching Fallout, the new season of Fallout. Watched all of a show called The Lowdown, which is the Ethan Hawke series. Um, like 8 episode limited run. Interesting, weird. Um, Chris probably would love it. But yeah, just really kind of just chilling and enjoying the chilling, you know? Yeah.
Like a vacation.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, a thing that I've talked about is because, and part of it is generational and part of it is upbringing and, whatever. I have I've had trouble with being kind of a workaholic because, my value is directly connected to how valuable I am to other people by the work that I do, you know. So if I'm not doing work, then obviously I have no value. So vacation is tough, on someone with that work ethic. Um,
Yep.
but I've, thanks to therapy and going on a mental health journey, um, I, yeah, it was sort of a test, the Thanksgiving break where we had like 4 days off or whatever. And I survived that without being all like, I have to get back to work. So I had hopes for the 2 week break at Christmas and it was fine. It's like, I, I never once while I was sitting at home had that thing about I should be at the office. So I was able to actually have that downtime and just relax. And I hadn't done that in a number of decades. So yeah,
Yeah, that's familiar. I've definitely
yeah.
been working through some of the same things. But I also did actually take the break properly off for the most part. Although it's not going to sound like it when I tell you the main thing I've been thinking about is crystallography, uh, which is something I've gotten very interested in over the last maybe 2 years or so. And my brother works for a company that makes a paper cutting machine. It's Cricut. It's a computer guided knife, and
Mhm.
so we've developed ways to make models of crystals out of folded paper. And so I've been making many, many shapes with interesting symmetry, and just thinking about all the math in there and all the mineralogy that's in there. So it's been very fun. Uh, I read the most recent book in the October Day series, which is also urban fantasy. So
Yeah.
we get two mentions of that. It's called Silver and Lead. It was the most recent one. Um, and one of the things Shannon McGuire does in that series that's cool is she's very willing to have things happen to characters that change them and change the dynamics. And so it is not a formulaic book. Every book is a different group of people doing things in a different way. So that was a lot of fun. They come out once a year, which is very regular for a long-running series, but I want more because I want them all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I love getting into a series that's ongoing and actually comes out regularly and
Mhm.
doesn't have, a 12-year break with between books or something. Yeah. Yeah.
I call that my kids are in college now. A way of writing.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I don't
But
know that I'd actually thought about that, but
yeah.
yes.
It
Yeah.
happens a lot. They hit a certain age and suddenly, why are they suddenly putting all these books out? Like, this, I thought they had kind of semi-retired. Then you realize, oh, they're at that age. Okay.
As opposed to the ones where there's an unexpected gap. You're like, why is there an unexpected gap? Oh, I see why they might be busy.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole that whole thing where, content creators have their own lives they have to deal with. What is up with
What?
that? Don't they know that their entire purpose in life is just to give us the stuff?
Right.
Yeah.
As we said, their value as people comes from the work that they produce.
That is right. That is right. Oh,
So what you're saying is, what have you written for me lately? Is
yeah. Yes. Yes. That is correct. Okay. I actually have a pet peeve about that too. The thing where a writer who is on some kind of really long break between main projects, but they take time to like write a prequel or like a little novella about a second or third tier character, and just like, what what are you doing? Why why would you do that? You know? Yeah.
well, we've
Patrick
talked about this
Rothfuss.
before, and I'm the exact opposite. I love those type of stories. I prefer those type of stories over the long, never-ending series, personally.
Well, yeah. Well, and I agree with you, but and I know that there are authors who do that whole never-ending series thing, but I think that there are some authors who have gotten really, really good and made a bunch of money out of putting out little sets of books, where
Mm-hmm.
it's a three-book series or a five-book series, and it's a complete
Mm-hmm.
story arc. You know, in the kind of urban fantasy world, young adult, Rick Riordan does that all the time, putting out trilogies or, 4 or 5
That's
books.
certainly an older model that was popular in like the 80s and 90s
Yeah,
of putting out, okay, I finished my 5 book series, I'm on to my next series type of
yeah,
thing.
Hmm.
yeah. Or e- even the ones where, so Kelly Armstrong, I think, did Bitten and those stories, the Otherworld series. She's doing stories in this connected universe, but
Hmm.
each book is a complete story in that universe. You don't have those, and there's some themes that will carry from book to book, but you have different areas of focus as you go from book to book. And you're not waiting to find out what happens to Lord Voldemort. If you get a Lord Voldemort in the first book, he gets dealt with in the first book, and you don't have to hear about him anymore, you know? And then you got some other person to deal with or whatever in the next one, which is nice. It's a good way to, I think that's a good way to write it too.
And that
One,
that's sorry, that's an older way of doing sort of things. You had Lawrence Watt Evans, even George R. R. Martin used to write books that way, and things of that nature.
Yeah.
one of my favorite series is it's a science fiction series, the Vorkosigan Saga by Loic McMaster Bujold. And they're all in one universe. There's kind of a connected family that's the main characters, but they're not written in the order they happen, and you can kind of dip in anywhere. There's the the ongoing discussion of do you read them in the order they were written or in the order that they happen?
Ah, gotcha.
Um, and I have an opinion of like, no, no, it's neither. This is the correct order based on purely my opinion. But that works really well because she's still very occasionally writes a new one in the series, and it might be later, it might be
Yeah.
a backstory or a side character or uh, anything along those lines, and that's very fun.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I feel like happens when you have the ongoing series is they do that f frozen in time thing
Hmm.
where like the first book happens and the character is 40 years old and the next book comes out 2 years later, but the events of that book happen 3 months after the first one, so that you have like tw 12 books that took 20 years to come out, but the character goes from being like 40 to 45, something like that. So you have this, kind of frozen in time thing, which people that read comic books are very familiar with because characters are always 30 years old, just perpetually. You know, Bruce Wayne was 30 years old in the first Batman book, and I think he's 40 now, 100 years later. Um, you know, but his protege was a teenager, and now his protege is 30, and his grandfather is also 30, and everyone's just 30 always, you know.
I think that's less strange for something that's been around for that long than for something that you watch come out, where as when you're like, I'm 3 years older, why is this character the same age? Versus I'm reading 20 books in a row, and of
Yeah.
course the character's the same age. So it really is, there's a real difference between engaging something as it comes out versus the back catalog engagement.
Well,
And
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
they kind of have to do it that way though too, because again, it's a shared universe. It's the idea that the company
mhm.
owns the characters, not the author. So you have to have this baseline of this is what this character is, and then you build off of that. And so, everyone has to be on the same page. Even 20 years later, the character is still 30 because that's the baseline we're working off of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, it didn't, as someone who's into comic book history, it didn't used to be that way. The idea is that they were progressing in real time, and it really became a problem in the 80s that they had to start addressing and started saying, no, it's a sliding scale because in like for Marvel and actually for DC as well, because their DC kind of rebooted itself in the 50s and 60s, but
Mm.
they really had to start saying, okay, no, it's not 15 years later in the comic books. And so but up until that point, if you read comics in the 60s and the 70s, it was supposedly taking place in real time to some extent.
Hmm.
Yeah, I I do know that because even though like in the not the comics, but in the cartoons or the live action versions of Spider-Man stories, there's this idea that he was in high school for like 20 years. But in the comics, he was in high school for like 2 years.
Yep.
And then he wasn't in high school anymore because he graduated and moved on to other things. So
And then he
yeah,
was in college and then he was in grad school forever.
yeah, which
So
which
that's
of course is
accurate.
just the way real life works, right? Right?
Grad school is never ending.
Yeah, yeah.
I think they probably did give him, just as a side, I think they probably did give him his master's. Or
Did
he was
they?
working on his PhD, but he didn't. Oh, I remember he didn't finish his PhD because of weird shenanigans, but it's one of those type of things.
Sure.
Because again, it's the Peter Parker luck. Nothing good can ever happen to Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Almost like someone is controlling it for narrative ends.
Yeah, it's almost like,
Yeah. 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 So speaking about graduate school and stuff, what's going on here on campus scholastically with you, Sarah? And are you back in the Bolin Hall, or do you have your office in Bolin?
Yes,
Yeah.
this is, well, unfortunately, this is my background, but it is in Bolin. Look at my beautiful new whiteboard with shapes on it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we are back in Bolin, and it's very exciting to be here. I worked a lot on this project. It was a huge part of what I was doing for a couple of years, and I just feel proud of it a lot of the time when I'm walking around. And that's the very positive version. There are also times when I look at something and I'm like, that's not how I expected that to look.
Mm.
But it's overall, I think we really have a building that does what we want it to, a lot better than it did before, and it's it's exciting.
I
No more refrigerators stocked with who knows what hidden on weird corners of the third floor. No more of that.
Fewer of those. It it was like the number of things that we found that were like, oh, why does someone have this grocery bag of asbestos in the back of a file drawer? Um, and I did one of the things I got to do was talk to the DEA and the campus police about a particular chemical we had that we had bought it in the 70s when that was perfectly legal before the DEA existed. And so I had this thing that was both a controlled substance and a hazardous chemical. So in order to transport it, you had to be both authorized to transport hazardous materials and controlled substances. Um, so eventually the campus police very helpfully came and took it away, but it was very much a puzzling like,
Wow.
are we going to get arrested if we try to turn this over to somebody?
Only thing we had close to that here in the library was we had old film which had degraded to the point that it was explosive.
mm,
When was that?
5 years ago. Right
Okay.
when we did our remodeling, basically.
yeah.
And it basically just put in a secure place and told that's someone else's problem and kept getting, passed down the line, basically. Yeah,
I
but
didn't know that film
gelatin,
got explosive.
gelatin. It became gelatin, basically. Yeah, because that's what's what the old silver nitrate films. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
One of the chemistry professors, I should probably talk to Hanson or somebody to explain what actually is going on. But I know that it's not it's the really old films. It's the old silver nitrate
Mhm.
films that happens to. They degrade over time and become, and you see that all the time when they talk about like the old film reels going up in flames and stuff like that. That's what they're talking about. Like Inglorious Bastards, and there was an episode of Doctor Who this last season, which were both about the very flammable effects of
Oh,
old film, basically.
Yeah.
this seems good to know. I didn't know it. I'll watch out.
Yeah.
We had our chemical safety manager, Raylene, did just an incredible job of being able to understand and describe what we needed to do to store things safely. It was like, okay, we have to have a locked door between this chemical and this chemical. We can only have this much of this in this space. This is what happens if the space gets too warm.
Mhm.
Um, I didn't know we had an explosion-proof refrigerator, but it turns out that's very important, and now I know about it. And so I just learned a ton about like I'm a mathematician. We don't have chemicals, we don't have equipment. We're pretty happy with chalk and blackboards or pens and paper, some computers occasionally. We don't have X-ray instruments and hazardous chemicals. And so just the number of things that I had to say, okay, explain to me because I haven't taken chemistry in a long time. Why do we have this and why is it stored that way? And
I didn't even think about that. You probably had some radioactive materials over there as well.
not very much, but yes. Um, yeah, we have some machines that produce X-rays, but those are modern machines and therefore pretty well contained. And we have a few devices that produce radioactivity, and you have to, you wear a dosimeter when you use them, but they're fairly benign. I think the Health Sciences College has a more stringent set of requirements around their
Oh yeah, I'm sure they
radioactivity
do.
because they have because our safety precaution is don't point it at people. Uh, and they have to point it at people to find things out. We mostly point ours at rocks and sometimes engineering stuff. But it. it really is the very specific nature of all of these things is just I, I can't believe how much really specific knowledge about that um, all the chemists have in their heads. And of course, they can't believe the specific knowledge about, arithmetic groups that I have, and that's it's a specialty thing. But it really trying um, to get a handle on the relevant parts of someone else's expertise uh, is just first of all, it's really fun. Um, I derailed many meetings into, wait, no, well, can you go back to the basic chemistry of that so I can understand it? But it is also such an interesting, like, exercise in understanding well enough to act on it, and uh, not trying to fully understand. I have an idea as a this is a mathematician thing, I think. If I can't rederive it from first principles, I don't really feel like I understand it. Which is not how you approach, engineering decisions on buildings. Um, and it's not even how you approach like actual science.
Yeah.
Math,
I was a
math,
physics major for years, and that's it's certainly this is how it works. Why? If we knew that, we wouldn't be doing all these experiments.
yeah, it's very like um this is something I've learned as I've taken a few geoscience classes the last few years. It very much is you look at things experimentally, you figure out what the models are. You don't always understand what's driving all of it. And when there are people who understand it, you don't have to go back and trace their work.
Yeah.
You're allowed to take their word for it at some point. Um, and
You mean you can
that's
trust the experts?
Uh, you can. And if you have questions, it's all written down and you can go verify that the experts said that. But you don't have to do it from the beginning.
Well,
And
physics was always frustrating because it was like, in this situation, you use this math, but in this situation, you use this math. You can't use, no, you can't. What?
there are some unsettling parts of physics, where you do look at it and you say, I don't I don't know that this is as coherent as I want it to be.
Yeah.
Uh, which is which is great. There's always more to know.
True.
But it is if you understand something well enough to know the questions people have right now, it's always when you learn a subject in school, you're never looking at these are the questions. These are the answers and the
Yeah.
facts that you need to know. And then there's the idea of like, if I want to know why, I just ask and someone knows. Uh, and it's very exciting being at a university where people are asking questions that are right at the edge of what humans know and pushing on the bounds of human knowledge.
I
Uh,
just found something today that I was telling people about because I thought it was really interesting. I try to keep on top of science news, and they did a study that shows that jellyfish sleep. And you're thinking, okay, jellyfish sleep. What's the big deal about that? The problem is our current understanding of why sleep exists. It's basically ushering down our nervous system so we can clean our brain of toxins. The problem with jellyfish sleeping is jellyfish don't have brains. So if they sleep, then the whole toxin thing is not why we sleep. That is just something that happens. Oh, this is a time when the body's not using the brain. Let's go ahead and wash that brain of its toxin type material. It's one of, it's the cart before the mule type idea. Basically, we were sleeping before we had brains, and we're using the sleep to actually clean the brain. That's not why we sleep. So this whole way of research that's been done the last 5 years is like we finally know why we sleep. It's been completely thrown out the window now to some extent, if the study is true. That
how can you tell that a jellyfish is asleep? Because it's not like you can like do an fMRI and notice lower brain activity.
I don't know. But that's was the study that came out this week. I can send you. I can look it up again and send you the report of it. But it was something I was interested in because I remember even being a kid, is I asked somebody why do we sleep and I never got a good answer. So it's something I've been keeping track of over the decades, basically trying to figure out what it is. And I was so happy that a few years ago they said, okay, done some MRI imaging of the brain while it's sleeping. We now that when in certain sleep cycles, literally the fluid washes over the brain, purging it of toxins, basically. That must be why we sleep. And now, again, if jellyfish sleep and don't have a brain, then there has to be, then sleeping predates the creation of an advanced nervous system that needs that. So, I don't know. It's just, again, the more you learn, the less you know.
And even the question of why, like why do we sleep? Like it just happens. Like there's with with a lot of questions, the why and the how are really the same. And so when we teach science and math, we use these ideas of, well, why? What's the reason? But that's not actually a scientifically answerable question. And so, I mean, I don't think it's an unreasonable way to describe the idea of sleep has a purpose, and that's if it's older than brains, that can't be its purpose. But it's also like it's kind of just a thing that happens, and there isn't a why. There's kind of just a how.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's just something I've been sharing today because I was like, dang it, we hadn't figured it out, I thought.
I know that there's going to be probably even some staff and faculty and certainly students who are coming into Bolin now
Mhm.
with it post renovation. And for them, this is just going to be the way that the building has always been for them. For people who have familiarity with the way it used to be, can you talk about some of the changes? What's different about it now uh, compared to how it had been?
Yeah. I think our biggest improvement is we have a very large commons area with big windows, lots of seating and tables.
Mhm.
And it gives people a place to gather, a place to settle if they have a class an hour from now.
Mm.
And what we used to have was basically park benches in the hallway.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Uh, and there were always students just like sitting on the side of the hallway with their books on their laps, um, or the cord stretched as far as they could go to get to a power outlet.
Well,
And now there's a space for that to work well and be comfortable, and it's designed to help that community happen, which is something that I have really wanted for as long as I've worked in this building. We have uh, this this is maybe a me specific thing. We have signs that tell you where things are. Um, and we didn't have a lot of signage before.
Mhm.
Uh, because by the time you've been there long enough to know where the signs should go, you've also forgotten why they're important. And so this is something that I put a lot of time into, was like, okay, what do we write on the outside of each room? Where do we put signs that people will actually find them? What are the things that you won't find if you are in this particular uh, pattern of movement? And I have no sense of direction. I have worked in this building for 12 years now, and I still, if I walk out of a classroom and I'm looking for the staircase, I go out the door, I turn a direction, and the building's a circle, so I walk until I find a staircase. And sometimes I go 7/8 of the way around the building and I say, that was not the right direction to turn. And it's so helpful to me, a person who's been here for a decade, to have signs. Um, we have just a lot more light. There are a
I
lot
was
more
about to say,
windows,
yeah.
just bringing in light from outside. And this is something that made a lot more of a difference than I expected. Our walls were done in little 2 by 2 tile for the most part. It was very, very 60s. It didn't look bad, it just looked old. And it's amazing how different it feels walking into a building that doesn't look old. Um, and it, there's part of my aesthetic that wants to be like, no, I want to do science in a building that looks like it's from the 60s. I'm part of a tradition of, you know, investing in things that matter and not things that look pretty. But it does we feel more like a relevant part of campus when you come into the building. Um, and this is along the lines of the signage. We have a tower now. Uh, it's it's a square, different from Hardin's, which is an octagon. But it's if you want to tell someone how to find Bolin, you now have uh, it's the one with the square tower. And I love the architecture of our campus and that everyone has these nice rounded arches and this like consistent kind of style. But it does mean that if you say, well, which building is this? There's not a lot of descriptors that are
Yeah.
easy to get to. So we've got one now. And so we just it making that entrance that really pulls people in is a help. And I talk about when I talk about these large scale things, uh it they're all very like aesthetic, very like how does the building feel? Um the things that are improving individual classrooms and labs are just very specific, and so they're not as easy to talk about. But like um, the things like, well, we don't have as many students in some of our labs anymore, and so it's safer for them to walk around, and they're not running into each other, and the lab benches are configured in a way where they can reach things.
Mm.
That is not exciting, but boy, does it make a difference to being able to do good teaching in a space. And we have a ton of just small things like that. We would love to have more things like that. It's like every building project. We had more ideas than we had money. Um, at some point, two-thirds of the way through, I mentioned in a meeting, someday I want to be on a project that is massively overfunded. And everyone laughed and said, yeah, don't we all? So,
Well, I
it,
think for the original plan for the library was to have a huge spiral staircase going from the first floor to the second floor with a natural skylight on and stuff like that, and that got cut quickly. But yeah, I
that
hear
would
what you mean.
that would be awesome.
It would have been awesome, but
Yeah.
One of the things we're still working on is our display cases. Like they're all there, but many of them are still empty because we're trying to the functional things take priority over the 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 things that are, nice to have. And so we still have a lot of empty display cases. The math display case, I know where the stuff is. I know which box it's in and where that box is sitting, but it's not unpacked yet. So I can't wait to see when we have all the different minerals back in their display cases, when we have all the different like historic stuff from our building through the years back.
be careful about that because I made a joke with Chris and Joe back a while back, I guess a year or two ago, and we asked the dean what was going on there. There is a display case over in Centennial that looks exactly like the Agony booth from the Terran Empire in the Star Trek original series, where they used to torture people. And so actually, um, when we had the dean on here, I actually confronted him and said, "What is that?" He goes, "Yeah, I think that was originally going to be a display case of some sort." I go, "Okay, but it's just this empty square box on the first floor hidden in a corner. It's just scary as hell."
So the warning there is don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't
Okay.
leave empty. I mean, Jeff Killing is
Oh,
the
okay.
person whose name wasn't coming to me, but yeah, do not leave these empty, weird boxes in the middle of nowhere where people are like, "Why is that there?"
Duly noted. Uh, I will avoid leaving Star Trek looking.
It
Uh,
looks exactly like the Agony booth.
Yeah.
And if any Star Trek fans are out there, they know what I'm
It's
talking about.
well, I mean, it's that like glass-walled
mhm.
shower, but with no plumbing visible. So it's just
Yeah.
this glass case that's just there.
And it has a
And
door the size a person can walk through,
yeah,
basically.
Yeah,
So that was probably going to be an anatomy model, right? Like a
possibly.
person-sized thing.
I
Yeah,
think he
or
thought it was going to be maybe an old X-ray machine or something like that, is what
Oh,
he
that's
thought.
cool.
yeah. And I mean, it's the height of the floor there. So it's, a 10 or 12-foot thing. Like you could put a Christmas tree in there, you
Mhm.
know.
Uh-huh.
So yeah. And it just like what what?
We were trying to figure it out. We're like, okay, there's only one plug in there, so it wasn't for like they did over at Dillard where they have, the server
Mhm.
displayed and stuff like that. So that's not it. What? It was, there's no shelving, so it's not your normal display area.
So Dr. Killian also was not sure what this was for. So
No,
it's not just a matter of they need to put the thing in it. They're not sure what the thing that's supposed to be in there is. That's fascinating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
anyway, I'm
Oh.
just saying that don't leave creepy displays empty in the new Bolin building, is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, because I did take a photo of it and send it to my friends and go, yeah, that's an agony booth from the original series, is what that is.
I mean, if we wanted to make our spaces creepy, and I'm sure health sciences has this too, we have things we could put in them to enhance that. I
I,
mean, like we've got all kinds of biology samples that
I gotcha.
um they really
Well,
we
I think they have the you beat because I think they do have some antique surgery instruments, which is I think the creepiest you can get, basically.
terrify it. Yeah, it's
So, when you so I obviously you were passionate about the renovation and you're happy with it now. Uh, I I guess you learned a lot too. Do you like want to get on like someone else's department, someone else's board? So you're like, wait, I need another renovation project I can do.
um in the abstract that sounds kind of neat. Uh I don't know that I I don't know that I'd have the courage to really jump in. I'm on the board of the Wichita Falls Symphony as well, and of course Memorial Auditorium is currently being renovated. And we don't have a lot of say in the auditorium, which is fine. But we are still thinking about how do you have a symphony when the place where you know how to perform symphonies is closed? Like where can you have the right number of people? Where can you bring your very nice piano
Mhm.
to have a real piano concert? And
Yeah.
our the staff and the board president and the city have all been fantastic. We've had a number of churches that have been very hospitable. We've had a couple concerts on campus, but it really is like that temporary space is one of the really challenging things. And it was something that I think with Bolin specifically, we had hoped that we wouldn't have as much of it because we we did a phased renovation, so we were always able to use part of the building. Um, but there's a lot of unique spaces in this building. There are things that do not exist elsewhere on campus and some that do not exist elsewhere in Wichita Falls.
Mhm.
And we used Pierce Hall as temporary office space for our faculty, which worked quite well. And I really enjoyed being in the middle of campus, and I enjoyed leaving my office to go to other buildings and see the sun. And I didn't expect either of those things to be as nice as it was. So I'm trying to, incorporate that idea of go outside sometimes into my life in Bolin, where everything's centralized. But getting that building ready for uh, a temporary office space took part of the project's time and part of the project's budget, and that's it's part of the planning that
Mhm.
doesn't quite enter your mind the first time you do a building project. And so that's one of the things that I definitely you know, going into whatever the next project is that I'm involved in, because now I have experience, and once you have experience, people remember that.
Mhm.
Um, and that's one of the things that I'll remember from the beginning. Um, and one of the things that I hope I remember is just the long list of people that we needed involved from the beginning. I know that on campus we don't always do as good a job as we could of getting IT into the early planning phases of a project, and we didn't know how much of a footprint they needed for the closets for all the servers. I don't think I used all the right words there, but it was good to get them in the room early before we couldn't solve that problem. Uh, we had a meeting with the campus locksmith where I learned so much about how you plan keys for security, and I really yeah. Another thing that I'm really happy with that no one else is ever going to care about is I think I did a good job planning which keys were going to go in which doors. Um, and it's just an incredibly interesting number of or an incredibly large number of very interesting, very specific problems.
Mm.
Uh, and so it really the question of kind of what an academic person brings to that knowledge of the building is really interesting. Because, of course, we had actual engineers and designers doing all of that stuff, and the stuff that, as department chairs, as faculty members, as interim dean, that we brought into the room was like, no, the reason that we have it like this is because we need to be able to do these specific things in the room. Those two machines need to be next to each other because you don't want to carry things all the way across the room. When you have we have motion sensor activated lights now,
Mm.
which is great for energy, great for a lot of things. But you do think about like, okay, if you have a lab and the lights turn out if no one's moving, that might be a safety hazard depending on what you're
Yeah.
working on. Or it just might be people sit still in this lab for long periods of time to look at a microscope. How do we make sure that they don't have to get up every 10 minutes to turn the lights back on? Um, so yeah, that's a very long answer to the question, would I do it again? And the answer is yes, but I'd be real scared going in because it was it's just so big and so far outside my actual expertise. But
Mm.
it's not as far outside it as it used to be for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing about natural light is interesting because Bolin, like Moffat, was rebuilt in the 70s and 80s, where sunlight was evil. It was the enemy. UV light destroys things. It degrades chemicals. It makes books fade. It should be avoided at all costs. So both Bolin and this building were built, with very little natural light, not taking into account the idea that natural light and its effect on the human psyche to some extent.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I remember being at the University of Alaska back in the 80s. And one of the things they had done is a huge study of the effects of natural light, because the biggest problem they had there is during the winter months, there's very little daylight. And so they were saying that their suicide rates were going through the roof and, all this clinical depression was happening and stuff like that. And they started doing studies realizing how important light is just to our general well-being. So that's
Mhm.
that's something that's really changed, I think. If you look at how, again, the last 50 years, how buildings used to be designed, and like the sun is a distraction, you don't want that sun coming through and blinding you, and to now, oh no, you need to try to get as much light into the building as possible, which is why you have buildings where Centennial is an entire glass on one side, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and for Bolin, we have windows in a lot of the classrooms, windows in a lot of the labs, but the faculty offices are in the middle. And I can certainly understand the reasoning of let's prioritize the students and make sure the students have the light they need. I favor prioritizing students, but you know students aren't in Bolin 8 hours a day, and a lot of faculty are.
Mm.
And it really like when I go into a classroom with windows and I'm teaching there, sometimes I will like start opening shades, just being like, we're gonna have light for an hour. And the students don't always appreciate it. Uh,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
And I know the next teacher who has a PowerPoint doesn't appreciate it, uh, but they can close them. I opened them.
Yeah.
Uh, we do have LED lights instead of fluorescence now, and I get fewer headaches, and that is awesome.
That's
Uh,
great.
but yeah, lighting is you don't notice it except that it just kind of affects the whole ambient mood in a space. It's really interesting.
The office location is a thing that I had always known about Bolin, where the offices were
Mm.
kind of in the middle. And of course, that's the way that the library is.
Yep.
We don't have offices that have exterior windows. We don't have any offices on the outside walls, you know. Um, and so I do know that there's a person on campus that I visit periodically. And one of the reasons I like to visit them is because their office has windows. And it's just like, look at you with your windows. It's like,
Same.
yeah. It's like this is how I know they think that you're better than I am. I mean, I'm not going to argue the point. I think you are too, but still, windows. Yeah.
We had a lot of discussions about interior windows. So, should your door have a panel that someone can see through?
Yeah.
Should the conference room have big glass walls? And there was a huge amount of disagreement,
Oh yeah.
uh, which, now that I've experienced it, of course there is, but I expected everyone to be like, yes, all the windows. Let's have, you know, light and visibility in all the spaces. And no, there are reasons that people don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Um, so that was one where I didn't expect the disagreements. But
Yeah. I have windows with the office next to me that is occupied,
that is
and I hate them. And they have blinds in them, and the blinds are always down. Yeah, uh, same kind of scenario. Uh, and I still occasionally get distracted by lights and movement from her office. Um, yeah, I hate
Just as an aside, I do have the blocking mat in my office here that you can put over the windows to block them. I just didn't get around to doing it because it was going to be a several hour type thing where I needed scissors and to measure twice and cut once type of thing. But if you want to, we can block these windows out so that that it doesn't do that if you want.
I'm just holding out until our next renovation project and they get bricked in. Yeah.
People might be wondering why we have these windows, these interior windows. It's because there used to be a lot more workflow where offices like mine would be part of a workroom. Same thing with Joe's office,
hmm,
where there would be the office of the person in charge of that department, and then there would be the workroom where the people actually did the job, did the day-to-day type of thing. But with libraries becoming more and more automated, those have basically gone away at this point.
that is interesting because the office to office is an odd setup.
Well, it's so I
Well,
can see, make sure that the
Yeah,
student workers are actually
yeah.
doing what they're supposed to be doing type of idea was the
right.
idea.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's some of it is a workflow issue that has changed over time, and but then part of that workflow issue, and this is one of those cart horse, chicken egg things, but we don't have as much staff now either, you know.
Yeah.
So we have departments that went from being three or four people to being one person, you know, um, and that's a thing that's happened over time. But
I, I feel like the use now for these windows is like you can just like post notes, just like,
sure.
"Hi, how's your Monday?"
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. If we
and
just replace the blinds with like whiteboards, or something, and yeah,
exactly.
it just yeah,
I
an exchange of
I
ideas.
could maybe measure a whiteboard to replace them.
Yeah.
I suggested this at some point. Actually, what I suggested was let's put a hole through the wall and we can set up a tin can phone.
Yeah.
Um, and the person in that office across the wall from me said, or we could use our real phones. Uh, I'm like,
What? O-
okay, yeah,
Okay.
you're right. That is more efficient.
I think that I have proposed this to you before, but I'm going to do it in front of both of our listeners that will eventually watch this episode.
Oh, that's not
Um,
fair. We may have 3 or 4 listeners there, Joe.
um, I think that the science department, the faculty should put on a science fair. Like the faculty should have science projects that they have to make and put out on a table that explains some sort of scientific, concept. But it has to be, I mean, it can be very professional, it can be very well done, but it should be that elementary, high school level thing. Show a person that has no idea what you're talking about what you're talking about. So probably it would be more complicated than the, potato as a battery thing. But but I think it would be great to see, and it could be scheduled during a time that is the least busy time for you. And of course that could be different, uh, but I think it would be amazing. I think that people would flock to see it. I think it would be a great morale booster and a great networking opportunity. You could actually invite local kids to come and see your science fair. I mean, I think
We
it'd
could
be
even
amazing.
do it at the same time as the high school or younger science fair and
Yeah.
just like, okay, so during this time we'll come around and see your projects and then you can come see ours.
Yeah.
That would
Yeah.
be fun. I do have a number of like just um table setups, I guess,
Mhm.
that we'll take to like STEM nights at high schools in town or that we'll use with when we have fairs for all the student organizations, like we're the math club, here's an interesting math puzzle to try. And so that kind of like, what is the way that you can make your subject engaging to someone who is walking by and may or may not stop for 1 to 15 minutes,
Yeah.
is a really fun and difficult uh,
Yeah.
way to engage. But I've never tried to do that with something that's connected to my actual research and knowledge and specialty. That would be really fun.
And the
You
way
could
that
always
I'm
do crystallography.
Yeah.
that'd be cool. Well, and the way that I'm thinking about it is like this has been a buzz phrase around the library world for the like last 6 to 12 months. The elevator pitch. It's elevator pitch science.
Hmm.
How can you express this scientific concept, theorem, or whatever in 60 seconds? You know? I think it'd be really cool.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I don't know that I could do a good job at it, so we'll have to do it a few times so that my first couple can be a little rough, and
Sure.
by the third or fourth one, I'll have something that actually works.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's like, and we know that when you decide to do something like that, the first time it happens, it's going to be a little rough around the edges. And then you go, hey, let's do this again next year. And it's smoother and then
Yeah.
gets bigger and better. And, that's just the way things work.
I do kind of want to riff on that a little bit, though, and say it's not that science fairs don't happen once you get to professional science. They just happen at conferences and they're much more specific. So I like, the poster session at any science conference is essentially a science fair where you walk around and you see like somebody's very short description of what they've been working on. And
That's what
I had
conferences need is they need more ribbon giving when you're doing something like the poster sessions.
Oh, yeah, if you'll give me an award for my poster, I will do absolutely do the science fair. I'll even take just a gold star. Just somebody come around with stickers and tell me I did a good job. I'm
I
so
have stickers.
I also have stickers. I make myself sticker charts when I have tasks to do,
Oh, nice.
because it's really motivational for me to see the stickers in the boxes.
I have tons of stickers because when I took this job as administrator, one of the things I asked them is, "What do you guys want, a sticker?" And they all looked at me and said, "Yes." Yes, we do.
I love that all three of us have stickers. That seems like this is a great podcast.
Well, and in that regard, for our audience, um, if you feel like you need a sticker, if you need a little encouragement or a little whimsy in your life, if you come to my office and say, "Hey, could I have a sticker?" I will give you a sticker. I will happily give you a sticker.
I'll only do that if you do well on a math assignment.
Oh, yeah. I I like to be a little bit more general with them. Sometimes when I'm doing an instruction or something, I'll give stickers out to the class, and I'll tell them straight up, I am doing this to bribe you in the hopes that this will make you like me. Um, you know, but I'm okay with that.
One of the things I love um, when I get a chance to do it is buying something for the first time that I never thought I would get to like own. Like in grad school, I bought my first couch and I was like, oh my gosh, I just bought a couch. And one of the recent ones for me is promotional items.
Mm,
Like, oh, I just decided that we wanted the You Grow logo on a notebook, and now we have a bunch of notebooks with the You Grow logo. And I found a website that does enamel pins. And part of me wants to get, I want to get enamel pins that say Dr. Cobb's favorite student, um, and then give them out very generously, uh, so that many, many people have pins that proclaim them to be my favorite student. Um,
yeah.
I will probably never do this because it's both expensive and weird. But it is something that I like to toy with in my head of labeling everyone as my favorite student. So I
My
could get stickers,
motivational
that's way cheaper.
motivational stickers are really cheap.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I gave all mine to both Joe and Austin because I don't see students as much as I used to. So I said, you guys can use more of these more than I can.
Yeah.
I like stickers,
And
so
I guarantee you there's one that says my favorite student. There is a sticker out there that says that. So that'd be my suggestion is stickers.
yeah, that's what I should do.
Yeah.
There are definitely some students who would enjoy that, and some others who would really enjoy making fun of me for that, which is almost as good an outcome, honestly.
Yeah.
We should probably start wrapping up, Joe.
Probably. Um, Sarah, I'm gonna talk about the things that are happening in the community and stuff, and then we're gonna close out. Did you have anything that you had wanted to talk about that you didn't get to talk about, or you feeling okay?
I feel like I got to say most of what I had in my head and a lot of stuff that I didn't know I was going to talk about.
Okay. All right. I just have a few things to mention about events happening in our local area. Um, Stage 2 Dinner Theater is performing a play version of The 39 Steps. You can catch the action January 16th through February 21st. The University Kiwanis Club is having their 70th annual Pancake Festival on Saturday, January 31st from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. At the J.S. Bridwell Agricultural Center. Tickets are $12 at the door. The Department of Music will present a faculty showcase recital at 7:30 on Tuesday, February 3rd in Aiken Auditorium. Again in Aiken Auditorium on the 9th, there will be a Communiversity ensemble concert at 7:30. And this is a little bit of advance notice. Remember that the fourth day of March is recognized as the day to March 4th and do something new or something you've been meaning to do but haven't done yet. So put that on your calendar, start making plans now. For more information about the things that I mentioned today and other local activities, check out the events section of the MSU Texas homepage, the calendar at discoverwichitafalls.com/events, and the events section on Facebook. If you have an event that you'd like us to announce, or if you have any comments or suggestions, questions for any or all of us, please send an email to library@msutexas.edu.
And
That's
thank
it.
you so much for being here with us today, Sarah. We appreciate it. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and sign out and hopefully see you guys next month.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.